before we get started, I gotta give a big shout out to OpenFortune for making today's episode possible. OpenFortune owns the Fortune Cookie as a media asset, putting Fortune Cookie ads in 47,000 restaurants, reaching 99% of zip codes, creating the ultimate Trojan horse for marketers to reach their consumer. So thank you to OpenFortune for making today possible. Today we have someone with us who's reshaping healthcare communications with a perfect mix of creativity and strategy. Karie Solland, as the Director of Communications at Arizona Complete Health, a part of Centene Corporation, Karie's all about crafting messages that make a real impact. With over a decade in healthcare, they've mastered everything from strategic branding to building high-performing teams, all while driving cultural transformations and executing campaigns that resonate. Before joining Arizona Complete Health, Karie was the marketing director at Adelante Healthcare, where they led a creative rebranding initiative and crafted a modern marketing strategy that positioned Adelante as a standout in the healthcare space. Now, at Arizona Complete Health, Karie is focused on driving communication strategies that align with the organization's mission and making a positive impact every step of the way. So, Karie, with such a dynamic career balancing creativity and strategy, how'd you end up here?
Well, it's kind of funny because I listen to these things and I hear people's amazing stories and I'm like, wow, that's so amazing. And I don't feel like I have this amazing story. I feel I was always a creative as a kid, creative in drawing, photography. Back when photography was not digital, I was in film, learning film in high school and how to manipulate that. And it wasn't really mainstream. And I was like, what do I want to do? Who do I want to be? What can I do in that creative space? And actually got my degree in interior design. My dad was an architect, and so kind of fell into it in that way. But throughout school, just really knew that's not what I really wanted to do.
Do you take any of that interior design or design into your work today?
Yeah, definitely. At my previous employer, there was a lot of things that factored into that within like the brand itself. How does our health centers look on the inside to represent that brand and kind of tying the two together? So I was able to really work on the interior design projects closely with those teams to establish that connection with the brand.
Absolutely. And coming out of college, what brought marketing to mind for you?
I really kind of stumbled across it. I became a marketing coordinator. And really, in the nonprofit space. So kind of, 1-2 person team, you're learning all the little aspects of marketing. Found my niche really in the creative space of graphic design and branding and all of that. But really learning all aspects of that. And also just came to love the aspect of marketing where you're learning about behavior, human behavior, and how does that affect what you do and the brand and the creative side of that to really drive results.
And you obviously have to listen to your consumer and really jump into what do they want, right? What, from a healthcare perspective, have you realized that consumers really want?
Within the nonprofit space, it's hard because we really serve this diverse population, and a lot of that was an underserved population, people with challenges, right? So understanding them as a person, what are those challenges, how hard it is to get those services they need, and then really approaching it from a different way and providing resources and value to their lives to really allow them to live their best life and be their best self.
And what's a campaign that you're just super, super proud of that, you spent almost 10 years at Adelante, right? What impact are you really proud of there?
We did a rebrand campaign a couple years ago out of kind of post-COVID and really kind of establishing a tagline we developed, which was a culture of care. And with that, we did a lot of outdoor advertising, a lot of brand awareness to really establish the new look and feel of the brand and the sentiment that we were trying to push with our patients of being that caring, trusted place for them to come and see.
Sure. And you spoke about creativity, right? What's your go-to method for sparking creativity when you're stuck in a rut?
I'm a really collaborative person. So I really like to just kind of I call it storm braining actually, get together with a bunch of my team and really just bounce ideas off of each other. I love, just typing in search and just kind of seeing what pops up and what percolates from there. But yeah, I'm just really collaborative and I like to just kind of ping things around and then expand on those ideas after that.
What's the most creative branding idea that you've had that made you think this is either going to be genius or a total disaster?
In healthcare, there's a lot of topics that people don't really like to talk about or discuss. One of the things we did is around colorectal cancer screenings. And so we did this, we did a couple years, we did different themes to that. One of them was bottoms up and keep it peachy. And we actually got underwear for the staff to wear, so boxers, and they would wear their boxers on Fridays over their scrubs. And we did an undie runway, so they would kind of prance on the runway, and it was really to bring awareness to colorectal cancer and what that meant, and do it in a fun, positive way that was, fun and engaging on social media.
And what was the feedback from that?
It was great. I mean,
and how'd you get buy-in?
Being a smaller nonprofit, I had a lot of flexibility to kind of be creative and push the boundaries, not having kind of that corporate structure where you have to work through sales and legal and all those things, that company had a positive culture to really cultivate and empower creativity. And so we were allowed to do those kinds of things and kind of push the boundaries a little bit on healthcare and what that meant. So it was great to have that up.
Yeah, and like I said, you spent 10 years at Adelante. You ended up recently making the move to Arizona Complete Health. 10 years is a long time, especially for millennials to stay in a job, so something must have been great there, right? But what made you want to make the move?
Really about just a kind of a pivotal point in my career to really try to continue to stay challenged. So this move for me was about kind of learning a different side of the business that I wasn't as much comfortable coming from that creative space where they allowed me that creativity and freedom to be that way, going to a space that is a little bit more policy driven, a little bit more in these kind of boxes. And so for me, it's really about kind of pushing those limits, finding where I can kind of squeeze through and make impact in that space. And
how do you plan to push creativity in more of a rigid role?
Really, I think it's about building relationships, building connections with those people that are in control of that, and establishing what that is with them and working with them effectively, but also figuring out there's always loopholes, there's always gray areas, and trying to figure out, okay, how do we interpret that, and how, are other people doing that, and how can we do that?
And what are some of the pain points that Arizona Complete Health has that they're bringing you on to solve?
Really that member engagement side, to member communications within the insurance space. So making sure they understand the value of the care that they're going to receive. And really the mission is transforming the communities we serve one person at a time. And so really to do that, just establishing that connection with them as the brand and as the entity that's really helping them get the care that they need to, again, be their best selves.
Sure. And what campaigns are you planning on creating, if you could share with us a little bit?
Really I think the challenge in pushing through there is kind of pushing through on the social media side, not really having that engagement on their channels right now. So I'm really hoping to kind of bring some of that knowledge in the space that I've had previously with Adelante and marrying that creativity, but also staying within the boundaries and the brand itself of what that looks like for them and how we can do that.
For sure. And, there's a quote great artists steal, right? What brands do you look at and you're they're doing something really well and, maybe I could bring in some of that into what we're doing?
The first thing that comes to mind is when I think about healthcare in general and here in Arizona, I think about Banner Health. They do a great job kind of storytelling with their brand and what that is and with their, exhale campaigns. And so I'm really hoping to kind of infuse that into the brand and really establish us as having that storytelling piece again on the social channels and things like that to really connect with our members and be engaged.
Sure. And what are you most excited about coming up in this role and just overall with this new opportunity?
Really just excited about the challenge. Right now there's a lot of stop signs in the way. But that's kind of exciting to me because again, I'm a competitive person into my soul. And so to be able to push through those and kind of say that I did that, I was able to break through those.
I'm curious with healthcare, right? There's a lot of legal behind it, right? And there's value. The value prop is not, it's care, right? It's not Frosted Flakes or Cheerios, right? Which are different cereals. How do you differentiate yourself while staying within those legal barriers?
That is the challenge itself, is really, a lot of the things that we come up with and are established, they have to go through that approval process. And so the positive thing in that is that everything really through those approval processes is about benefiting the member, benefiting that person and their care and what they're receiving, and benefiting our communities. And so if we can kind of keep that in mind as we're developing these campaigns, developing how we want to connect with them, I think that that'll all align, and we'll be able to push there.
Totally. And, within your new role, there's going to be a lot of leadership, right, that you have to lead, change the path. And a lot of our listeners are, 18 to about 27. They're looking for new roles, right? What is something that you really love and a characteristic of a potential employee that you see and you're like, okay, cool, like I could see them working for me?
Yeah, my biggest thing is continuous improvement. I think that as a leader, I'm always trying to be better. How can I look at this differently? Even though it was a great, fabulous campaign, we had huge success. What could we have done differently? How could we have changed this or made a bigger impact? Or come at it from another angle. So looking for that feedback, taking that feedback in and really just thinking to yourself, like, this is to better myself, not to be defensive, right? Not to be thinking about it as an attack on you or what you did or what you came up with, but really just establishing that this is a growth opportunity.
Sure.
And communication is key too. Like, I think, communicating what you want, what your ideas are, again, being that collaborative nature that I kind of try to foster, I think it's helpful because then you're getting all those different diverse perspectives and voices in the room.
Continuous improvement is an underlying theme in a lot of these conversations, right, with high performers. I'm curious how you bring that continuous improvement into your personal life as well.
It's like ingrained in me. I grew up as a competitive gymnast.
Oh, no.
So I think that it kind of gives you this like level of professionalism and like perfectionism of like trying to like always do the next challenge, be better than the next or the last thing, right? And so even as a mom, I'm a mom of 3 kids. I'm working a full-time corporate job. All of those things is how can I do better? And so it's the same in my personal life.
What has motherhood or your kids taught you about life, and also, through your career journey as well?
Patience. Patience. Everyone's different. I think that it really allows you to see, every one of your kids being male, female, whatever gender they are, even within that space, right? Being very different in their personalities, how they process things, how they like to learn,
Sure.
what motivates them. And I think that really helps in your leadership journey as well, and leading people and understanding that everyone is different in that way. And so that's really taught me a lot.
Totally. And if listeners could take one thing out of this episode, what would you want them to take away?
Never settle. Always, again, going back to that continuous improvement, and be authentically yourself. I think for a long time in my career, I was trying to mimic what I saw in the corporate world and being a female in that industry. And then I kind of had this breaking point with my 3rd child that I was just like, you know what, I'm just going to be me. And if people don't like that, then that's okay. That doesn't align to me, and I don't want to be a part of that. So I think just being authentically you and showing up who you are every day is important.
Just got to give a big shout out to OpenFortune. OpenFortune is revolutionizing marketing by turning those tiny slips of the fortune cookie into powerful advertising tools, reaching 99% of U.S. zip codes and over 47,000 restaurants. Brands like Goose Island, ZipRecruiter, and Duolingo have already joined the fun. Are you ready to crack open a new way to reach your audience? Check out OpenFortune.com. Person you'd most want to sit down to dinner with, dead or alive.
Marilyn Monroe.
Favorite city in the world?
I mean, Mesa, Arizona, my hometown. I don't know.
Well,
I love it. I live here.
is it okay to sleep with socks on?
No.
Favorite rom-com?
51st Dates is what popped in my head, so I'm going to say it.
Best spot to eat in Arizona?
Joyride.
Favorite NAU grad?
I didn't have any friends. Myself.
In one sentence, how do you sum up the internet?
Wild. It's great.
And in 10 years, where can we catch you?
Hopefully living on the beach.
10 years from now, follow up on the beach. Thank you so much for hopping on. That was great.